He shot her a look, and even the frizz of her short fringe seemed to stand on end. "Sometimes I forget you're from Denmark Hill." "Suffolk," Evie corrected. Jenny rolled her eyes. "I know, darling, but when you're talking to this set, you're from Denmark Hill. South of the river is bad enough, but that way at least you can say you know Ruskin." "But I don't know Ruskin." "No one really does," Jenny sighed. "It's the vampire." Evie stopped in her tracks. "Did you just say John Ruskin's a vampire?" Jenny groaned. "Forget Ruskin. Are you even listening? It's what people have seen. A vampire here in Highgate. Like Polidori's Lord Ruthven. A seducer. In a top hat and tails. He sleeps among the dead and only leaves to suck the life from vulnerable young ladies." "You've just described half the men in London." The wind picked up and Evie shivered. "Does he turn into a bat?" "Of course not," Jenny scoffed. "Then how do they know he's a vampire?" "You just know," Jenny answered, after some consideration. "It's the thrall, with the glance. They can make you do their bidding. Oh, and they can see him wandering about the cemetery on his own." "Wandering about the cemetery in black? You mean like a mourner? The absolute beast." Evie shook her head. Everyone was mourning someone. There was a reason the shop had kept running out of black crepe. As if to prove her point, two men rounded the corner, walking companionably in black coats and gleaming top hats. Her gaze immediately went to the cuffs of their trousers, though she hadn't been paid to mend any in weeks. "I beg your pardon, sirs," Evie called out. "Can you turn into bats?" The men looked at her as if she'd lost her faculties, as Jenny hooked her arm through Evie's elbow and dragged her down the street. "You are deranged," Jenny chided under her breath, with a laugh. "Already had a nip, have you?" Evie shook her head, her heart sinking. She'd run out of laudanum days before, and even then she'd only taken it so she could sleep. The truth was she was giddy with hunger, but she wouldn't burden Jenny with that. "Not tonight," she said truthfully. "Must be the moon. Or perhaps the vampire has me in his thrall." At last they reached an unassuming 2-story brick house at the end of the lane. The door was inlaid with stained glass and painted arsenic green. Evie stared at it. She walked at least 5 miles on the promise of food and the possibility of work, and at the end of it was arsenic green. She almost didn't go in. The decision was made for her when the door opened and a young man stepped out. "Jenny," he greeted with a saucy smile. "Pleasure as always. Who've you brought us then?" Jenny sighed with obvious relief at seeing him, her face glowing with hopeful anticipation. Evie's eyebrows shot up. Jenny had mentioned they were going to an artist's house, but not that she was in love with him. "This is Evie Henshawe, my friend from the shop. Well, used to be. Tompkins threw her out on account of—" Jenny stopped short when Evie elbowed her in the ribs. "Well, it don't signify, does it? Evie, this is Spencer." She didn't specify if that was his first or surname, and Spencer didn't feel the need to clarify. "Delighted to meet you, Evie. Welcome." With a last lingering look at Jenny, he turned and led them into the house. Spencer certainly carried himself like an artist. He was young yet fashionably lean, and walked with the swagger of a man who only needed one name. His shirt was of good quality, if smudged in places with charcoal and chalk. And he wore it loose, like he'd just thrown it over his head after falling out of bed. The house matched him perfectly.